Hey guys, how is everybody doing today? What is going on out there in the YouTube fragrance world? My name is Elliot, and I want to welcome you back to another episode of The Fragrance Well. Today's topic is going to be hard to get / discontinued scents, and are they worth getting if you get a chance to get them today? Looking at what I got here, I got at least one that is absolutely discontinued. A couple others are maybe just more so hard to get in the States at least. So I'm going to be talking about it from the perspective of, can you get these in the United States? I know some of them you can still get in other parts of the world. But yeah, all of these are at least either difficult to get because they're just not as available as they used to be, particularly at discounters, or some of them are just discontinued altogether. And if you get the chance to pick them up, do I think it's worth giving them a shot? We're going to talk about them right now. All right, guys, let's get into it. Again, I have 8 fragrances here that are either discontinued or just difficult to find at times. The first one's going to be coming from the house of Christian Dior. This is Dior Homme Original. So this is the later release of the original Dior Homme DNA that came out, I think, originally in 2005, and then 2020 version came out and caused quite a stir because it moved away from the iris style fragrance that Dior Homme was made known for. And then this is the 2021, I think it was 2021, the re-release of the same original DNA. So I was able to get my hands on this recently. And this is my first time ever smelling the original style Dior Homme in any kind of iteration. And frankly, I was blown away by it. I had Dior Homme Intense because Dior Homme Intense is actually very easy to get. It's very much available, usually in stock somewhere, and not overly expensive either. This one, however, is a little bit harder to get in the States. It's not really marketed to be sold here. It's not at any retailers as far as I know. Joma Shop recently had this in not too long ago, and I went on ahead and just kind of jumped on a bottle because it wasn't really expensive. It's pretty much just about probably what the original retail price would have been. This one features lavender, sage, bergamot, cocoa, iris, amber, cardamom, Haitian vetiver, leather, and patchouli. So anybody that was around when this was the Homme, this was what Dior Homme offered as the Homme line, knows what this smells like. It's all about powdery, kind of lipsticky iris. For me, what I get with this one, there's also kind of an aromatic soapy vibe to this compared to Dior Homme Intense. It's a little more focused on the iris. Also a little bit of spice with this as well. I really like it. I think it's a great offering. It is a shame that they moved away from this, but I get it. Dior Homme 2020 is much more mass appealing, and I'm sure is going to sell many more bottles of that over this, particularly in the States. Do I think this is worth getting? If you are a fan of that Dior Homme Iris style fragrance and you like Dior Homme Intense and maybe haven't checked this one out, I would say yes. If you get an opportunity to pick this up and you like that style of fragrance, absolutely go ahead and jump on this. I have seen this readily available on eBay. Again, not overly expensive, but it probably is going for a price that's higher than what this is being sold at retail. But if you find a seller on there that you think is trustworthy and you want to pick up a bottle, I think it's worth it. And if it pops up on discounters and you have an opportunity to grab it, I think it is worth it. That's only if you are a fan of iris scents and you like what Dior Homme Intense does, or you like that Dior Homme style iris fragrance. Okay, and number 2 on the list. This one is 100% discontinued, and it is an absolute shame that it is, but it is what it is. Coming from the house of Thierry Mugler, this is Pure Havane. Thierry Mugler's Pure Havane. Sure, you've heard about this one if you've been in the community for any amount of time. All about sweet honey tobacco with this one. One of the best designer scents to ever come out, in my opinion. I was so happy I was able to have a chance to grab this when I did. Very special fragrance because they are just not making them like this anymore in any mass effect when it comes to designer fragrances. This one features honey tobacco, cocoa, patchouli, ambergris, labdanum, and styrax. So like I said, it's all about that honey tobacco and just a touch of smokiness. Atomizer absolutely sucks on these bottles. But man, does it smell good. That is just quality stuff. And I wish designers would kind of move back to making scents like this. I'm just gonna come out and say that this is 100% worth it if you get a chance to pick up one of these without paying an arm and a leg for it. Beautiful fragrance. Really, a lot of the fragrances from this line I imagine are really good. This is the only one I've smelled. I've been keeping my eye out for pure malt, but I think that's even gonna be harder to find since Thierry Mugler passed away. I would imagine any chance of getting these at the level of ease they were able to get is pretty much gone now. So yeah, this kind of popped. Actually, I bought this literally a week before he passed away. It popped up on fragrancebuy.ca. I just jumped on it because I knew it was not going to be a fragrance I would have a lot of opportunities to buy. And then he passed away a week later, and I was like, I'm glad I went on ahead and grabbed it, because if it had happened to still be in stock at that point, I knew it wasn't going to last long after that. And on top of that, these are really good fragrances. The bottles, make them stand out. Like I said, the atomizers on them are not great, but there is awesome juice inside these, and I'm glad I was able to get this one when I did. So if you get a chance to get this and it doesn't cost you an arm and a leg, absolutely jump on it. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Pure Havane from Thierry Mugler. All right, moving on. Number 3 on the list is going to be coming from the house of Yves Saint Laurent. This is La Nuit de l'Homme Bleu Electrique. La Nuit de l'Homme Bleu Electrique definitely made a splash in the fragrance community. What was it? I think it was 2021, I believe. Kind of came out. It was readily available to anyone. Most fragrance reviewers obviously just bought it ahead of time and had it delivered to their homes. But then next thing you know, it was gone. You couldn't get it anywhere, and it's pretty much stayed that way. So I don't know what happened. As far as I know, in the States, you pretty much can't get it. I think it's a little bit easier to get in other parts of the world. But that being said, I was able to get a bottle of it. I jumped on it, and it is a really good release from Yves Saint Laurent, a really good flanker to the La Nuit de l'Homme line. Obviously features cardamom, but also has bergamot, ginger, French lavender, geranium, cedarwood, and vetiver. The best way I can describe this fragrance is it is a good modern take on the original La Nuit de l'Homme with a slight tinge of a blue fragrance style sensibility. I think to me that a lot of that comes from the lavender. Yeah, so it has kind of a cleanliness to it, but it remains, it keeps that kind of sexy, warm cardamom note that made La Nuit de l'Homme so popular. And it just is a really nice, great fragrance, great for date nights, smells awesome, no one's gonna hate this, people pleasing, get you some compliments as well. Would I say it is worth giving it a shot? I'm actually gonna say no. If you can find it for a good price and you want to jump on it and you think it's worth giving it a shot, then okay, go ahead and buy it. But I would say for all the hype that it got since it got, discontinued in the States, a lot of people might buy this and think it, when a fragrance gets that kind of hype, you're automatically going to build up this idea in your brain that it's going to be the best thing you've ever smelled. As good as it is, I don't think it's that good, and I think a lot of people are just going to be like, "Oh man, all this hype came up for this, and it's kind of smells very similar to the original." So I would say for that reason alone, if you don't really want to check this fragrance out, it's probably not worth jumping on it if you get the chance. I have been seeing it pop up a lot more frequently, so that's good. So maybe some of that hype will die down a little bit. More people will get a chance to get their hands on it. But even at a discounted price, I wouldn't necessarily call it cheap. It's still going to run you about $100. If I remember correctly, that's about what I paid for it. Like I said, it popped up on Fragrance Buy. I got a notification for it, so I just went on ahead and jumped on it. I got it in. I do enjoy it. I do think it's a great fragrance, but I don't think it's worth, because it's hard to get, I don't think it's worth hyping up any more than it already kind of got when it became hard to get, and it was getting hyped up when fragrance reviewers were first getting their hands on it. So to me, it's good, but not that good to the point where I think, oh, you should just absolutely jump on this if you see it. All right, next one is going to be coming from the house of Hugo Boss. This one is 100% discontinued. This is The Scent Private Accord. Hugo Boss, The Scent Private Accord. I would say this one is probably the most hyped up The Scent fragrance, and I can understand why, mainly because it features a kind of a coffee accord, and anytime a fragrance, designer fragrance like this kind of features coffee, it seems to me like it gets a little bit more hyped up. This features ginger, maninka fruit, mocha, and cocoa absolute. So I'm gonna be 100% honest about this one, man. When I got it in, it was a little underwhelming for me. It wasn't bad, it smells pleasant, it smells nice. I do get the cocoa vibe that it has, but if I'm being completely honest, for all that it was hyped up to be when I first started collecting, because that's when I first heard about it, it was a little bit of a letdown. To me, it's just not as good as people made it seem. And I'm not calling anybody out with that, and I'm not saying it isn't good and people shouldn't like it. But to me personally, it just didn't live up to what I built it up to be in my brain. To be perfectly honest, right before I got this one, I got the scent Absolute in, which as far as I know is not discontinued, but it is becoming a little bit more rare on discounters. So I guess it's selling out a little bit more. I honestly like this one a little bit better than I like Private Accord. Didn't see that one coming. Not to say that this one isn't good. I don't know. For me, I tried this one on my skin. This is again, this is Absolute. I tried this one on my skin and I kept going back to it, and the more it sat on my skin, the more I liked it. Where I wore this one, I didn't really have that feeling. I didn't dislike it. I just didn't go back to it as much. However, my wife really liked this, so you know, whatever that counts for. All that being said, do I think you should take a chance on this if it becomes available again? As far as I know, where it is sold out now. But if it becomes available again, do I think you should take a chance on this? I'm actually going to say yes, because I think for me, the reason why it was a bit of a letdown is because I've experienced a lot more complex fragrances since I first learned about this, and other similar, not similar scents, but scents that I had at the time I got this that I thought would maybe replace this in terms of what it has to offer. Those scents have dropped down on my favorites list because I've experienced things since then that are a lot higher quality, a lot more complex, and I gravitate towards those more than I do those kind of simpler designer scents now. And I'm not knocking them, but I think this one kind of falls into that category. I imagine I would have liked this a lot more if I had gotten it when I first started collecting, and it probably would have dropped down on my list, kind of like I think it does now. That being said, I think to the masses, this is something a lot of people would really like to have, so I'm not gonna say people shouldn't check this out if they get the chance. If you can get it for a good price, I do think this is worth picking up, because to me, I think most people would definitely appreciate this. All right, so this next one I know for a fact is discontinued in the United States. It may still be available overseas, I'm not sure, but you definitely don't find it in retail stores anymore in the States. Coming from the house of Prada, Prada L'Homme Intense. Prada L'Homme Intense. This one here I think is an absolute masterpiece. I'm gonna say if you are a fan of Iris on any level, if you get a chance to pick this one up, definitely pick it up. I'm jumping the gun here, but I'm just saying it now. Pick this up if you get a chance, if you are a fan of Iris at any level. Featured notes in this are Iris, tonka bean, patchouli, and amber. I also get a bit of a kind of a leathery undertone in this. I don't know if leather is just an unlisted accord in this fragrance, or if there's just no leather at all, and maybe that's just how I experience the fragrance. But all I know is I love this. I do have the original Iris, the original Prada L'Homme as well, which is still readily available. I think that's a great fragrance. I love the soapy and clean and high class nature of that fragrance. This one just takes that Iris, makes it a little bit deeper, adds some sweetness to it with the tonka, a little bit more darker as well. You can kind of pick up on that from the darker bottle, and just adds a lot of sexiness to it, and it's just a great scent. I've gotten compliments from this fragrance. This fragrance lasts forever. All around, just a beautiful scent from the house of Prada, and it's a shame that they don't make this anymore, at least in the States. So once again, if you are a fan of Iris at any level, this one is worth picking up, and it does pop up from discounts from time to time, but usually it's not that many bottles, so you kind of have to watch out for it. You might also be able to find someone maybe selling this, maybe they just don't want it anymore, or maybe they got it and just didn't enjoy it that much. But again, if you like Iris at any level, definitely check this one out. All right guys, so I have got 3 more left here. As far as I know, these 3 are not discontinued at any level, but they can be hard to find in the States. So the first one's gonna be coming from the house of Guerlain. This is L'Instant de Guerlain. L'Instant de Guerlain from the house of Guerlain. I literally just picked this up a couple of days ago from a duty-free store at the Atlanta airport. And I was absolutely blown away by this fragrance. I've been wanting to kind of check out these Guerlain fragrances. They used to be a little bit more available, but now they're not available as much on discounters. But you can buy them from the Guerlain website at full retail. But them being blind buys, you know, I was like, I don't know if I want to risk it. But they did have this at the duty-free store. They had a bottle sitting out. So naturally, I was like, well, I gotta try that on my skin. And at first it was a little funky on my skin. I was like, the opening is a little rough on this, but then it settled down and it was absolutely delicious after that. And I just said, all right, that's the one I'm picking up. Featured notes in this are star anise, citrus notes, elemi resin, patchouli blossom, jasmine, neroli, cocoa, patchouli, cedar, sandalwood, tea, and hibiscus seed. So this is definitely a somewhat sweet, very gourmand fragrance with a lot of spice. The star anise really comes through in this right off the top. Mixed with that citrus, I think that's what gives it just a little bit of a funk right off of the top. But after a couple of minutes, that settles down and you get this nice, spicy, sweet, gourmand, almost kind of hot chocolate, spicy hot chocolate kind of vibe. That's how I would describe it. It smells absolutely delicious and it smells great in the air, and it actually pushes off the skin very well. When I was testing it, I sprayed just a little bit on my hand and I could smell it for the rest of the day. It just kept coming up to my nose and I wasn't even having to go down and smell it by my hand. So it's a great projecting fragrance, performs really nicely, beautiful fragrance from the house of Guerlain. Do I think you should pick this up? It does come off as a bit of a mature scent, so I would say younger guys probably wouldn't really care too much for this. That being said, if you can find this discounted, if it ever becomes available again discounted, I think it's worth picking up because it is a very high quality scent, great smelling fragrance. If you're a fan of gourmands, you'll definitely like this. And it is very different from what is offered from most houses these days, most designer houses. I know we like to kind of consider Guerlain a niche house. I guess it's kind of both. I don't know, it could fall in both veins. I would say for the majority of their scents, they're more of niche quality. To me, this one kind of sits in that realm because most designer fragrances definitely don't smell like this. Okay guys, so like I mentioned before, this next one is also coming from the house of Guerlain. This is L'Homme Ideal Extreme. L'Homme Ideal Extreme, I believe this came out in 2020. So since it is a newer release, it tends to sell out a little faster. It's also very much hyped, so that's why it's a little bit harder to find. It's just, it gets bought up pretty quickly when it becomes available. Yep, so this one, very much in that Guerlain DNA. You got the almond featured, but this one also adds some very sweet and gourmand notes. So this one is a lot richer than some of the other Guerlain offerings. To be fair, I haven't smelled too many of them, but I do have the original EDT, so I kind of base it off of that. And this is definitely an extreme version of the original Guerlain L'Homme Ideal. This one features almond, bergamot, pink pepper, heliotrope, cinnamon, plum, leather, patchouli, tobacco, and cedar. So again, like I said, you definitely get that almond in here, so you get a little bit of a creamy nuttiness to it, but you also get a lot of added spice and sweetness with this. So do I think you should get this? If you're very much a fan of the L'Homme Ideal line or you're very interested in it, I'd say it's worth getting. When it does pop up on discounters, it's not overly cheap, but it's not super expensive either. So, like I said, if you just have a very much a keen interest in the Guerlain L'Homme Ideal line, or you're already a fan of it and you're kind of trying to Pokemon it and collect them all, yeah, certainly this is worth getting. I do think it is a very pleasant smelling fragrance. It's certainly one that'll get you compliments. So yeah, if you're interested in it, check it out if you get the chance. I have seen it for sale a lot more lately. I think some of the hype has just kind of died down from it, so it does seem to be becoming more readily available, but it is still relatively rare compared to a lot of other fragrances, especially on discounters. Okay guys, and last but not least, this one is one of my favorite pickups from last year. This is coming from the house of Issey Miyake. This is L'Eau d'Issey Pour Homme Noir Ambre. The bottle is massive. Let me try to get it in frame for you. Yep. L'Eau d'Issey Pour Homme Noir Ambre, or just Noir Ambre for short. This fragrance apparently came out in 2016 or something like that, and I guess it was really hyped at that time, but it was hard to get here in the States. Last year it became readily available at discounters, and it made the waves through FragCom, and to be honest, I think all that hype was well deserved. This fragrance is absolutely stunning in my opinion. If you are a fan of amber fragrances, and you like Oriental style spices, you're gonna like this one. So I wouldn't necessarily call it blind buy safe, because if you're not into that style of fragrance, you might not really care for this, but I don't think anybody can deny that this is a super high quality fragrance for it coming from a designer house. Definitely something you would expect to come from more of a niche fragrance house, and it is very well done, smells absolutely awesome, smells great in the air, smells great from opening to dry down, has just a touch of sweetness to it, a lot of spices, beautiful fragrance. This features saffron, cinnamon, nutmeg, coriander, cedar, leather, vetiver, papyrus, amber, vanilla, and tonka bean. Beautiful vanilla and amber combination. The little bit of leather you get in this, it's not animalic, it just gives it a nice leathery balance to the fragrance, adds a little bit of depth to it. 10 out of 10 in my opinion. Like I said, this is one of my favorites. It's one of my favorite, if not my favorite pickup from last year. Do I think you should pick this up if you get the chance? I don't know if it's available right now. I know a lot of hype made it probably less available, probably even bumped the price up a bit. I just haven't checked in a while. But do I think you should get this if you get the chance? I'm gonna say yes, because I think it's just a super high quality fragrance that honestly should be going for a lot more than it probably goes for at retail. It's just that well done in my opinion. All right guys, and that's all of them. That is 8 hard to get or discontinued fragrances, and I gave my opinion on whether I think they are worth picking up if you get a chance to pick them up. If you guys have these fragrances, let me know what you think of them. Do you think they're worth people trying to pick them up if they get the chance? Do you think you should just let them go if you ever see them? Don't even worry about them. What are some other fragrances you think are hard to get that should maybe be featured in this list? Maybe if I get the chance to pick them up, I should check them out. Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video also. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next episode of The Fragrance Well.